My girlfriend whispered, "I've changed, he makes me happier," and walked away silently. For a second, I honestly thought she was rehearsing a line from some movie. My brain refused to attach those words to my actual life. I just stood there in the living room, half turned toward the door, holding my keys in one hand and the takeaway coffee she'd asked me to grab in the other, watching her walk down the hallway with that slow, careful pace like she was afraid the floor might crack under her. The only sounds were the faint buzz of the fridge and the soft drag of her overnight bag wheels on the floorboards. She didn't look back, not once. We'd been together 4.5 years when she said that. I'm 28M, she's 27F. I'm writing this on a throwaway because we have too many mutual friends online, and I'm not ready for the "is this about you and Hannah" texts. I've been lurking on this sub for a while, reading posts from people who have been cheated on, blindsided, or just slowly phased out until one day their partner says something like, "We've grown apart," and that's it. I always thought if it ever happened to me, I'd see it coming a mile away. That I'd be the type who notices every little change, every weird text, every late night at work. Spoiler, I didn't see it, at least not in a way I let myself believe. I met Hannah at a mutual friend's birthday drinks. It was one of those crowded bar situations where you end up shouting your life story over bad remixes. She was sitting at the end of the pushed-together tables, drawing tiny planets in the condensation ring on her glass with one finger. Shoulder-length brown hair tucked behind one ear, dimples when she smiled, a little gold moon necklace she fiddled with when she was listening. "You look bored out of your mind," I yelled over the music as I slid into the free chair next to her. She laughed, half a beat late, like she had to come back from wherever her mind was. "Just escaping the great debate over there," she shouted back, nodding toward the center of the table. I followed her gaze. A bunch of our friends were earnestly arguing about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. It had gotten to the cultural crime level of dramatics. "High-level discourse," I said, "you're missing out." "I can't handle another person saying it's about the balance of sweet and savory, like they invented it," she replied, rolling her eyes. That made me laugh. "I'm latum," I said, holding my hand out. "Hannah," she said, and her handshake was warm and firm, not that weird limp thing some people do. "So, what brought you here, apart from the opportunity to witness the fall of civilization over toppings?" We fell into that easy conversation that feels like sliding into a seat that was already warmed for you. She worked in UX design, which at the time I guessed meant making buttons look pretty on apps. She later explained it was about user journeys and accessibility, and a whole lot of psychology they don't get credit for. I work in IT for a mid-sized company, basically the person everyone calls when the internet is broken, even though that doesn't actually mean anything. We both loved the same stupid meme pages. We both hated coriander with the kind of passion you're not supposed to waste on herbs. She liked sci-fi books and had a very strong opinion about which Star Wars trilogy was acceptable. I was more into crime dramas and trashy reality TV. She thought that was hilarious. At some point, our friend group devolved into karaoke. Hannah and I stayed at the table, sharing a bowl of chips and making running commentary on our mates' performances. When she got up to finally sing, after being bullied into it by our friend Jess, she picked some early 2000s pop song and absolutely killed it. Not in a should-be on the voice way, but in that unself-conscious, arms flailing, eyes scrunched way that made her feel safe to be around. When I walked her to her Uber at the end of the night, she hovered by the open car door. "So are you always this funny?" she asked, "or is it just the 3 beers?" "Depends," I said. "Are you always this cute, or is it just the dim bar lighting?" She laughed, head tipping back, and I thought, I want to see that laugh in daylight. "Ask for my number and find out," she said. We did the whole early relationship dance. Coffee dates that turned into wandering around the city talking about childhood crap. Movie nights where we pretended to watch something but kept pausing because one of us thought of another story. That "oh god, I hope they text me" first phase. Our first fight was about something tiny, me being late to dinner because a ticket machine broke at the train station and I had to wait. She was upset, not because of the 30 minutes, but because her dad used to be late to everything, and it triggered that old feeling of being last on someone's list. She told me that crying on my couch, knees pulled to her chest, makeup smudged. "I know it's silly," she kept saying. "It's not silly," I said, sitting on the floor in front of her. "It's not about the time, it's about the story in your head." She looked at me like I'd said something profound instead of parroting my therapist from years ago. Then she cupped my face and said, "You're different." Hannah moved into my apartment after a year and a half. It wasn't the original plan, she just gradually left more and more stuff at my place. First a toothbrush, then a spare pair of leggings, then half her skincare routine. One day I opened my wardrobe and realized there were more of her clothes than mine hanging there. "We should probably make this official," I said, holding up one of her dresses. You mean? She asked, eyes widening a bit. Yeah, I said, move in, properly. That way I can at least pretend I understand your organizational system of chairs, bed, floor. She jumped into my arms and said yes, and the next month was a blur of IKEA trips and negotiation. My old band posters got relegated to the study. Her plants colonized every windowsill. We argued about the correct way to stack the dishwasher. I was wrong. I accept this now. For a while, it was good in that quiet, mundane way you don't appreciate until it's gone. Sunday mornings with pancakes and Spotify playlists. Arguing over which brand of laundry detergent smelled less like a headache. Complaining about work while we chopped vegetables for dinner. Falling asleep with her hair tickling my nose and pretending to be annoyed. The cracks started small, they always do. The first time she said, I've changed, it wasn't about another guy, it was about broccoli. We were at my parents' place for dinner. Mum had made roast like she always does, with the same sides she's been serving since the dawn of time. Mum went to dish up for Hannah and asked, no broccoli, right? Hannah smiled. Actually, I eat broccoli now, she said. I've changed. We laughed. It was a running joke then. She'd say it about trying a new hot sauce or starting to like podcasts in the car. I've changed, she'd say dramatically, flinging the back of her hand to her forehead. If you told me that same sentence would eventually be used to justify walking out of our life, I'd have told you to stop being dramatic. About a year ago, Hannah got a new job. That's when things really started to shift. Her old job was at a small agency, mostly designing interfaces for banks and healthcare apps. She liked it fine, but often came home complaining about clients who wanted edgy design, but were scared of any actual change. Then she saw a listing for a design lead role at a startup. Well-funded, flexible work, mission-driven, their words. They were building some kind of platform for mental health resources, a cross between a content hub and a referral network. This is literally my dream, she said, sitting at the kitchen table with the job ad open on her laptop. It sounds perfect, I agreed, skimming it. You should go for it. She did. There were 3 rounds of interviews, a design task, a presentation. She poured herself into it. I helped by making sure there was food on the table and occasionally reminding her to sleep. When she got the call saying she'd landed it, she screamed so loud our neighbor knocked to ask if everything was okay. The new job came with a different world. Not in a class way like some of the stories I've read here, but in a vibe way. Her old colleagues were mostly in their early 30s, some already exhausted by agency life. These new people were intense, all in, the type who talk about shipping features and disrupting the space and optimizing for impact in casual conversation. Slack channels buzzing at all hours. Weekly product demos where everyone live reacted with emojis. At first, Hannah was exhilarated. They actually care about user testing, she said after her first week. Like, genuinely, they want to sit with people using the app and ask what doesn't work. I'm not fighting to justify design choices anymore. That's awesome, I said, less screaming into the void. Exactly, she smiled. She started working longer hours, but it didn't bother me initially. New job, new rhythm. She'd get home buzzing, talking about feedback sessions, iterations, how they'd simplified a workflow and engagement had gone up by 20%. Half of it went over my head, but I liked seeing her so engaged. Then she started talking about Max. Max was, in her words, the product guy. He'd come from some big tech company overseas, super experienced, really good at strategy. She mentioned him the first time when she came home late and apologized, dropping her bag with a groan. Sorry, I'm later than I said, she sighed. Max wanted to run through the roadmap again after stand-up, and then we fell down a rabbit hole about onboarding flows. Sounds sexy, I joked. She grinned. You'd be surprised how heated people can get about button placement, she said. After that, his name started popping up more. Max thinks we should test this copy on the landing page. Max sent this article about habit formation that blew my mind. Max wants to run a design sprint next month. I'm stoked. The way she talked about him at first was in that colleague crush way, impressed, inspired, a little fangirly. It didn't ping my radar. I've had work mentors I spoke highly of too. I met him once briefly. I'd swung by her office to pick her up because my car was in the area and it was pouring. The startup had that typical open plan, exposed brick look, plants and standing desks and a fridge full of kombucha. I felt weirdly self-conscious in my plain hoodie and jeans, like I'd crashed a co-working catalog shoot. Babe, Hannah called, waving me over. This is Max. Max, this is Liam, my boyfriend. Max stood up from a cluster of laptops. Tall mid-30s, good hair, that relaxed confidence some people seem to be born with. "Hey man," he said, shaking my hand. "Nice to meet you. We've heard a lot about you." "All lies, I hope," I replied. He laughed. "Only that you're the reason Hannah doesn't live at the office," he said. "We'll try to get her home at reasonable hours." I liked him fine in that 5-minute interaction. He seemed normal. Smart, sure, but not smarmy. He joked about how they all needed partners who reminded them to touch grass. On the drive home, I said, "He seems all right." "He's great," she said, staring out the window. "He actually listens. Like when I push back on something, he doesn't get defensive. He asks why." "Low bar for men, but we'll take it," I said. She laughed, but it lingered. You know how when you look back, you can see the exact moments you quietly decided not to ask more questions because you didn't want to hear the answers. I have a few of those. Like the night she came home really late, after midnight, smelling faintly of wine. "Sorry," she whispered, trying not to wake me as she slipped into bed. "What time is it?" I mumbled. "Just after 12, she said. "We had a launch party. The new update went live and the numbers were better than we hoped." I rolled over to face her. "You could have texted," I said, not quite whiny but close. She winced. "I know," she said. "My phone died and then I got caught up chatting. I'm sorry." I hesitated, then asked, "Chatting to who?" She paused, just a beat too long. "Everyone," she said lightly. "The whole team was there." I wanted to ask if everyone included Max, just the two of them at the bar after everyone else left. I didn't, partly because I worried I'd sound jealous, partly because a little voice in my head said, "If you have to ask, you already know." Another moment, a Saturday afternoon, months later. We planned a lazy day, brunch, maybe a movie. She spent the week stressed about some big release. I'd had a rough patch at work dealing with a security breach. 10 minutes before we were meant to leave, her phone buzzed on the bench. She glanced at it, and her whole face changed. "Shit," she muttered. "What's up?" "Max just messaged," she said. "He's at the office with Clara. They found a major bug in the new build. He wants to jump on a call to triage. Apparently, users are getting locked out." I exhaled through my nose. "Can someone else handle it?" "I'm the design lead," she said, guilt already written all over her. "If it's a flows issue, I need to be there." "You can't fix it tomorrow." "People use this on weekends," she said. "It's a mental health app, Liam. We can't just leave them locked out until Monday." Fair point, hard to argue with that. "Go," I said, swallowing my disappointment. "We can reschedule." She leaned over and kissed my cheek. "I'm sorry," she said. It was supposed to be a quick call. It turned into her disappearing into the study for 4 hours, only emerging to grab another coffee. When she finally came out, tired but wired, she said, "We managed to patch it. If we hadn't caught it, the drop-off would have been huge." "Great," I said, forcing a smile. "And Max was, honestly, he was amazing," she added. "He stayed online with us the whole time, even though he had his kids that weekend. He kept everyone calm." There it was again, Max. If you're reading this and thinking, "Jude, red flags everywhere," trust me, I see them now. At the time, I told myself she was just excited about having a boss who wasn't a nightmare. The first time I saw a concrete sign that it might be more, it was stupidly mundane. A message preview. She was in the shower one night, her phone charging on the bedside table. I was lying on the bed scrolling Reddit, her phone lit up next to me. Normally I wouldn't snoop. Yes, I know people say that, but really, I'm not the dig through your phone type. The screen lit up with a WhatsApp notification. Max and a heart emoji. Just a red heart, not some inside joke one. The preview flashed. "Thinking about what you said earlier. You deserve to feel." The rest cut off. My stomach dropped through the mattress. I told myself a story on the spot. Maybe they were talking about her burnout. She'd been stressed lately. Maybe he was just being a supportive manager badly. Maybe the heart was just, I don't know, Europeans do that platonically. Max is not European, for the record. He's from Brisbane. I lay there, heart rate spiking, watching the condensation creep down the bathroom window. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't scroll. I didn't open it. I just stared at it like it might explode. When she came back into the bedroom in her oversized t-shirt and shorts, hair wet, she looked at me and paused. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I lied, "just tired." She crawled into bed, cuddled up to me, placed a soft kiss on my chest. "Big day tomorrow," she murmured. "Let's sleep." I lay awake for hours, feeling like I'd swallowed a hummingbird. I didn't ask her about the message. I told myself that if I brought it up without real proof, I'd just be projecting my insecurities. I decided to quietly observe instead, see if anything else felt off. Spoiler, it did. There were more late nights, more drinks with the team, more weekends where she'd say, I just need to jump on for an hour and disappear for half a day. Her phone started living face down. Emotionally, she felt further away too. When I tried to talk about something deeper than surface-level stuff, she'd either get impatient or shut down. One night, I finally snapped a little. We were in the living room. She was half watching some show, half on her laptop. I was staring at an email from my boss about restructuring, nothing catastrophic, but my role was going to change. I think they're moving me into more of a security-focused position, I said. Less hands-on stuff, more policy. She murmured, eyes still on the screen. It's not necessarily a bad thing, I continued. It's just different, I'm not sure if I'll like it. Yeah, change is scary, she said, typing something. Could you maybe actually listen? I said, more sharply than I meant. She blinked, looked up, then closed the laptop slowly. Sorry, she said, I was just finishing an email. I exhaled. I feel like you're half here most of the time lately, I said. Like you're always plugged into work, even when you're home. She frowned. That's a bit rich, she said. You live in your computer half the time. I'm here though, I said. When you talk about your stuff, I'm present. I'm not answering tickets at the same time. She tilted her head. Really? She asked quietly. Because sometimes it feels like you just pat me on the head and say that sucks and move on. That's not fair, I said. I'm trying. I don't live in your startup world, Han. Half the time I don't even know what the acronyms mean. But I ask, I listen. I show up to your demo days even though I don't understand half of what's going on in those slides. She looked torn. I know, she said. I know you try, Liam. I'm not saying you don't. It's just, she chewed her lip, searching for words. Sometimes I feel like I'm splitting myself in two. There's the version of me that lives at work, thinking about metrics and flows and mental health impact, and the version of me that lives here, watching trash TV and talking about which of our friends is being an idiot. Those aren't mutually exclusive, I said. You can want to help people and also talk shit about reality TV. She smiled weakly. I know, she said. I don't always feel like you get how big this feels for me. Like this isn't just a job, it's who I am now. There it was. Who you are now, I repeated. She flinched. That sounded harsher than I meant, she said. I just mean I've changed. I'm not the exact person I was when we met, working at a boring agency and just wanting to find someone nice. My world is bigger now. And I'm what? I asked. Too small for it. Her eyes filled with tears. That's not what I'm saying, she said quickly. You're important to me. You always will be. I don't know how to bring you with me into all of it without feeling like I'm dragging you somewhere you don't want to go. Did I say I don't want to go? I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. No, she conceded, you didn't. We left it there, hanging, both half right, half wrong, both too tired or scared to keep pulling on the thread. The actual breakup day started stupidly normal. She had a work-from-home day, I was in the office. We kissed goodbye in the morning, her in leggings and my old hoodie, me in a shirt that still had coffee on the cuff. On my lunch break, I messaged her. Me want anything from the cafe downstairs. Hannah oat flat white PLS. The little yellow heart, she always used that one. I grabbed her coffee on my way home, balancing it carefully on the train. I remember worrying more about spilling it than anything else in my life, which now feels like some cosmic joke. When I pushed open the front door, the first thing I noticed was the quiet. No music, no keyboard clacking, just silence. Hannah, I called. Hey, her voice came from the bedroom. I followed it and stopped dead at the doorway. Half of her wardrobe was empty. Her side of the dresser, where her little collection of fancy perfumes used to be, was bare. The framed photo of us at the coast, the one where we're both sunburnt and grinning like idiots, was gone from her bedside table. She was standing by the bed, hands twisting the strap of an overnight bag that was way too full for just a night. Her eyes were red. What's going on? I asked, my voice coming out weirdly calm even though my heart had just dropped somewhere near my shoes. She swallowed. We need to talk, she said. I set the coffee on the dresser, suddenly not trusting my hands. Yeah, I said, no shit. She sat on the edge of the bed. I stayed standing, leaning against the doorframe because I didn't trust my legs either. I've been putting this off, she started, Because I kept telling myself I was just stressed, or it was just a phase, or that once things settled at work, I'd feel different. But it hasn't changed. If anything, it's gotten clearer. Just say it, I said, my mouth dry. She looked up at me, eyes full of something like grief and determination, and whispered, I've changed, he makes me happier. The word he hit me like a physical thing. I think my brain did this instant, frantic search through its internal Rolodex. He could only be one person. Not her dad, not some new random. Max. Of course it was Max. The heart emoji. The messages. The nights she came home smelling of wine and something like guilt. Wow, I said, because apparently my reaction to emotional death is sarcasm. Okay, that's one way to break it to me. Her face crumpled. I didn't mean it to sound so brutal, she said. It's just the most honest way I can say it. How long? I asked. She stared at the floor. We haven't, she started, then stopped. We only kissed once, a few days ago. I ended it and said I needed to figure my shit out before anything else happened. But feelings don't just appear in a few days, I said flatly. No, she admitted, they don't. So how long? I repeated. She took a shaky breath. I don't know when it started, she said. We were just colleagues at first, then friends. Then I realized I was looking forward to his messages too much, or thinking about his reactions when something happened at work. I told myself it was just admiration, that it wasn't real. I didn't want it to be real. And yet here we are, I said. And yet here we are, she echoed. So all that time, I said slowly, when you were distant, when you pulled away from me, when you said you were just stressed, or processing, you were falling for him. Tears spilled over. Yes, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. You know what's messed up, I said. I would have fought for us. I was trying to fight for us. I thought we were going through a rough patch. I thought it was burnout or miscommunication or your job changing you. I never thought the person you were changing for was him. It's not just him, she said quickly. Please don't reduce it to that. I've changed in other ways too. I'm not the Hannah who moved in here 2 years ago. I care about different things now. I want different things. Like what? I asked. What different things does he want that I do? She hesitated. He understands the way my brain works now, she said. When I talk about my work or about mental health policy or about this big picture stuff, he doesn't just nod. He builds on it. We're on the same wavelength. So you're saying I'm stupid, I said, voice low. No, she burst out. God, Liam, no, you're not stupid. You're one of the smartest people I know. You just don't live in that world. And I don't want to drag you into it or drag myself out of it every time I come home. With him, I don't feel that split. What about the version of you who sings badly in the shower and watches trash TV and forgets where she put her glasses? I asked, throat tight. Is there space for her in his world? She let out a sob that sounded like it ripped something inside her. I don't know, she said. I just know that when I'm with him, I feel more like the person I am now than I do when I'm here, trying to be the person I used to be and the one I'm becoming. And your solution, I said slowly, was to fall in love with him while still living in my house, in our life, and then wait until the feelings were so big you couldn't ignore them. I didn't choose to fall in love with him, she said, voice breaking. I tried to stop it. I pulled back. I avoided one-on-ones. I told myself I was just projecting my own growth onto him, but every time I suppressed it, it came back harder. You could have chosen not to act on it, I said. You could have chosen to tell me before you kissed him. I know, she whispered. I messed up. I fucked up, Liam. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I can't stay with you pretending this isn't true. That would be worse than leaving. For a long moment, I just stared at her. At the girl who'd painted my bedroom wall that slightly too bright shade of blue because she'd misread the paint chip, who cried at dog videos, who made me playlists called For When Your Brain Is Mean. The woman who now sat in front of me, saying another man made her happier. What if we tried? I asked finally, hatting the pleading edge in my voice. What if we went to couples therapy, took a break from work stuff, tried to find who we are now together instead of just cutting the cord? She shook her head, tears falling silently. I've thought about that, she said. A lot. The thing is, it wouldn't be therapy to rebuild us. It would be therapy to delay this, to make me feel less guilty while we slowly die anyway. You don't know that, I said. I do, she said softly, because I've been half out the door for months, Liam. My body was here, but my head was. That's not fair to you. You deserve someone who is all in, who looks at you and feels the way I used to. I don't want to keep hurting you by staying out of obligation or fear. Don't you dare pretend this is some noble act of mercy, I said, anger flaring again. You're not leaving because you want what's best for me. You're leaving because you want what's best for you. Own that. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Then she nodded slowly. You're right, she said. I am leaving for me, because I can't ignore that I'm happier when I'm living fully in the life I've built around this work and these people, because I can't keep shape-shifting between versions of myself anymore. And he's part of that life, I said. Yes, she whispered. I felt something in me go very, very still. So what now? I asked. You walk out of here with your overnight bag and into his arms, into your new, happier life. She shook her head quickly. I'm not moving in with him, she said. I'm going to stay at my sister for a while. I told him I need space. We're not starting something officially until I've ended this properly and had time. Oh, that makes it so much better, I said. You're staggering my heartbreak so it looks ethical. Her shoulders curled inward. I don't expect you to ever be okay with me, she said quietly. I know I've likely ruined any chance of that. I just couldn't keep lying to you, not when I felt myself checking out every time we sat on the couch together. Did you ever think, I asked, that people change together, that you could have told me you were feeling this way months ago and given me a chance to grow with you, or were you too busy sharing that journey with him instead? She covered her face with her hands and sobbed, not the pretty, cinematic kind of crying, the ugly, snotty, gasping kind. I stood there, fists clenched at my sides, feeling like I was watching someone demolish a house I'd poured years into building, swinging the wrecking ball themselves and crying about how sad it was to see it fall. Eventually, the sobs quieted. She wiped her face on her sleeve, took a breath, and stood up. She picked up the overnight bag, adjusted the strap on her shoulder. I'm going to go now, she said, voice raw. I'll text you about logistics, rent, stuff. I won't come by when you're here. Jess can be here if you want someone else around when I grab the rest of my things. I looked at the coffee cup still sitting on the dresser, the lid slightly askew from where I'd set it down too fast. I brought you coffee, I said stupidly. Her face crumpled again. I know, she whispered. You've always been good to me. Yeah, I said. That's kind of the fucked up part. She took a step toward the door, then hesitated. For a second, I thought she'd run back into my arms, that this had been some cruel test of whether I'd fight for her. But she just looked at me, eyes shining, and said, I'll always be grateful for you, Liam. I know that's not enough. I just need you to know I'm not rewriting our history. I loved you. I just don't love you in the way you deserve anymore. Then go, I said quietly. Go be happier. She nodded once, turned, and walked down the hallway, overnight bag wheels whispering on the floor, hand on the doorknob, no dramatic slam, just that soft click and then silence. I stood there for a long time, long enough for the coffee to go cold, for the light outside to shift from afternoon brightness to this weird blue-gray, long enough that my legs started to ache and my throat started to burn. When I finally moved, it was automatic. I picked up the coffee, unscrewed the lid, and poured it down the sink. Then I washed the cup, because apparently my brain still cared about not leaving sticky rings on the counter. The first few days after she left felt like being underwater. Everything was muffled. People spoke to me at work, and I nodded at the right times, but couldn't remember half the conversations. My boss called me into a meeting about the restructuring, and I sat there thinking about how the imprint of her pillow was still on her side of the bed. I didn't tell many people at first. My younger brother found out because he came over with his girlfriend a couple of days later and walked into the half-empty apartment. Where Hannah's stuff? He asked, looking around. In boxes, I said, or at her sister. She left. He froze. What? When? Thursday, I said. Why? I laughed bitterly. She changed, I said. He makes her happier. He winced. Fuck. Yep, I said. He and his girlfriend did their best to comfort me. They brought food, sat with me through a movie I don't remember, told me I wasn't unlovable. It helped in that way that doesn't touch the middle of the ache but makes the edges less sharp. Telling my parents was weirder. Mum cried more than I did, but she was such a lovely girl, she kept saying, as if being lovely and breaking someone's heart were mutually exclusive. Dad went into problem-solving mode. Do you want me to help you move? He asked. We can find you a cheaper place, or you can come stay with us for a bit. I'll be all right, I said, though I wasn't sure yet if that was true. For a while I obsessed over the details I didn't have. When exactly had she realized she loved him? Did he have the decency to feel guilty? Did they talk about me? Was he better looking than me in her eyes? Did he kiss differently? Did she compare us in her head? At one point, I found myself hovering over his LinkedIn profile, thumb itching to hit connect, just to send him some petty message. I didn't. Instead, I threw my phone onto the couch and went for a run until my lungs burned and my legs wobbled. I ended up messaging her once, about a week after. Me, did you ever actually plan to tell me if you hadn't kissed him? Hannah, yes, I was working up to it. I know that's hard to believe. Me, did you tell him you left me? Hannah, yes, he knows. We're not together. I'm trying to figure out who I am outside both of you. Me, must be nice to have options. Hannah, that's not fair. Me, none of this is fair. I muted the chat after that. Not blocked, some part of me couldn't do it yet, just quiet. I started seeing a therapist again. I'd gone a few years back for anxiety and had stopped when things felt fine. The first sessions back. I basically word vomited the whole story and then apologized for talking too much. You don't have to apologize for using the time you're paying for, she said dryly. We talked about grief, about identity, about how much of my sense of self had become Hannah's boyfriend without me realizing, how I'd bent parts of myself to fit her world too in smaller ways, adopting her music tastes, caring more about certain issues because she cared. We talk a lot about people outgrowing relationships, my therapist said in one session, as if growth is a one-way street and whoever leaves is more evolved. But sometimes people grow in different directions. That doesn't mean one is better. It just means the shape of the relationship can't hold them both anymore. So what does that make me? I asked. The one who got left behind because my growth wasn't impressive enough. It makes you someone whose partner chose a different path, she said. Someone who got hurt by how that choice was handled. Your worth doesn't live in whether you were picked. Easy to say, hard to feel. I unfollowed Hannah on social media. Not in a big dramatic block everything way, just quietly. For my sanity, mutual friends still accidentally let things slip sometimes. Have you seen Hannah's new hair? One of them asked at a party. She went really short, it looks amazing. I hadn't seen it. I pictured her in some trendy bar, laughing at something Max said, hair shorter, lighter, freer. It hurt, but also, weirdly, I hoped it did look amazing. Because if she was going to blow up our life, I didn't want it to be for a version of herself she didn't even like. About a month after the breakup, I ran into them. It was at a bookstore, of all places. I'd gone in to kill time and maybe buy something I didn't really need. I was in the sci-fi section when I heard her laugh, that particular cadence I could pick out of a crowd. My body went cold and hot at the same time. I turned my head. There she was 2 aisles over, standing next to Max. She'd cut her hair just like our friend had said, shorter, wavier, with these little pieces framing her face. She looked good, of course she did. They were standing close, not touching, but with that slight lean, in you have with someone you're comfortable around. Max was saying something about a book. She was looking up at him in that way she used to look at me when I talked about some dumb theory. For a second, I considered walking out, ghosting myself out of the moment, but then she glanced up and our eyes met. Her face went through about 4 emotions in 1 second: shock, guilt, sadness, something like tenderness. She murmured something to Max and stepped toward me. "Hey," she said softly when she got close enough. "Hey," I managed. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "How are you?" she asked, because of course she did. I thought about saying, "Fantastic, thanks, betrayal is great for the skin." Instead, I went with, "Okay, you." She glanced back at Max, who was politely pretending to be absorbed in a display. "Figuring it out," she said, "one day at a time." "Cool," I said, "glad you're happier." It came out sharper than I intended. She winced. "Liam, I don't," I said quietly. "You made your choice. I'm not going to be the guy who stands in a bookstore asking his ex why he wasn't enough." Her eyes filled with tears. "You were enough," she said. "That was never the problem." "Could have fooled me," I replied. We stood there in awkward silence for a few seconds. Then she said, "If you ever want to talk properly, like, for closure, I'd be open to that." "I don't think I want my closure from the person who broke me," I said. "No offense." She nodded slowly. "I get that," she said. "For what it's worth, I really hope you find someone who chooses you fully, who grows with you, not away from you." "I hope you find what you're looking for too," I said. "I just wish you hadn't had to burn me to get there." Her lips trembled. She whispered, "I'm sorry," one more time, then stepped back. Max gave me a respectful nod as they walked away together. I stood in the aisle for a while, staring at the same book spine without seeing it, feeling like my insides had been scooped out and replaced with static. Then I bought a book I don't remember choosing and went home. That night I sat on the couch in my too-quiet apartment and opened a blank note on my phone. I wrote, "My girlfriend whispered, 'I've changed, he makes me happier,' and walked away silently." Then I kept writing, "This post is part of that mess." If there's a point to all of this, it's not never date someone with a passionate career, or don't trust colleagues, or you should have checked her phone. It's more, we don't talk enough about how people can genuinely change and grow in ways that make them less compatible with the person they love, and how fucking brutal that is when you're on the receiving end. I don't think Hannah set out to hurt me. I think she got caught between the person she was, the person she was becoming, and the shiny mirror of validation that Max held up. She chose the version of herself that felt most alive, and that version didn't fit into the life we'd built. That doesn't make what she did right, it just makes it human. As for me, I'm trying to build something new out of the rubble. Not some grand reinvention, not a petty, I'll show her glow up. Just a life where I am the main character again, not the supporting one in someone else's transformation arc. I got a promotion at work, not the exact role I thought I wanted, but one that lets me mentor some juniors and have a say in security policies. I started going to the gym more, not to post thirst traps or anything, but because moving my body helps when my brain is screaming. I reconnected with an old hobby, playing guitar, not to impress anyone, just because my hands remember the chords and it feels good. Sometimes, late at night, I still replay that moment in the bedroom. Her saying she'd changed, that he made her happier. The way she walked away without slamming the door. The silence. I wonder if there was anything I could have done differently. If I'd pushed harder earlier, or been more interested in her world, or less passive about my own. My therapist says that line of thinking is a way of trying to reclaim control. If you can find the thing you did wrong, she says, then you can believe that doing it right next time will guarantee a different outcome. But relationships aren't equations. So I'm trying to sit with the uncertainty, to accept that sometimes people leave not because you weren't enough, but because they're chasing a version of themselves that doesn't include you, and that still fucking hurts. That doesn't mean you were small-hearted or insufficient, it just means your paths diverged. If anyone's reading this because they heard something similar, I've changed, she makes me happier. We're different now, and you're feeling like your entire world just got downgraded. I don't have any profound wisdom. All I can say is, the pain doesn't stay at this volume forever. The silence gets less loud. Your own life, the one that existed before and underneath the relationship, is still there, waiting for you to pay attention to it again. Hannah changed, Max makes her happier, that's the story she's living now. I'm changing too, I guess, not into someone better for her or for anyone else, just into someone who can look at what happened, feel the hurt and still keep going, someone who can stand on his own 2 feet in an apartment that's half empty and think, okay, this is my life now, what do I want to fill it with? It's not the ending I wanted, but it's not the end of me.